Hi YouTube, this is a review of the Firefly 2 micro action camera. I was given it by BangGood so that I could do a video about it, and it's reasonably good. It's a reasonably good camera, quite impressed. It's never going to match the quality of something like a GoPro Session or GoPro 7 or something like that, but that's not really the point of it. I think it's meant to be cheap so that you can use it for things that you probably wouldn't want to use your GoPro on. So anyway, here's the basic gist of it. You've got your power on button here, so hold it in to get it to power on. You have to hold it in for quite a while so it's not accidentally going to trigger, and then subsequent press will start the recording. And it's got a little LED that appears here. It's not very visible, but once you know where to look, it's another indicator for you. You stop recording by pressing the power button again, and then it either goes off after about 3 minutes, or you can set it in the OSD, which is here, which I'll get to in a bit, or you can hold it in until it goes beep 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 beep, which is a bit like the GoPro Session as well. So that's it off again. Okay, so other things you can do. So we'll turn it on again. That's it on. You can change the mode. Wait until it powers up. So the wee LED is showing here. If we press this, must have to press it for a little bit longer. Little red light comes on, and I assume that means it's now in photograph mode or time-lapse mode. I'm gonna have to check which one that is. So press start and it's flashing, so I think that is actually a time-lapse mode. Okay, so we'll stop that. Stopped. Okay, so I guess it writes it to file. Wait until the light comes on again. Oh, it's actually turned off. Okay, turn it back on again. I must have pressed it for too long. Blue LED's on. Actually, blue's on, and now it's gone to red again, so it's kept its mode. So I want to change the mode again, I think this time to photographs. I think that's just back to film again, or movies again. No, that would appear to be a photograph. So I've taken a couple of photographs. Take one of the box. One of the manual. I think I pressed it too long there. Yeah, so don't press it for too long. They're quite flush with the surface, the buttons, so you can't really accidentally press them. Sometimes that would happen with the GoPro. You'd accidentally press the mode button and start off, and you'd be doing a time lapse rather than recording at 60 frames a second. Yeah, you have to quite deliberately turn it on. You have to hold it in for a certain amount of time. Wait for the light to come on and you're good to go. So let's start recording. Oh no, that's the photograph again. Okay. Oh, it's back. And that's video again. No. Okay, I'll try holding that in. I think that's back to video now. So it must be red and blue for photos and red for time lapse. showing on these two LEDs here, I think, or one. I'm not sure whether it's one or two. The camera also comes with the charging cable, which is, it's a sort of proprietary USB connection with a connection for your television or your screen. A couple of Velcro cables to strap it onto this mount. It sits on this quite nicely with the little rubber. Okay, so it's made of quite a hard plastic, which is, yeah, it might break, but I think it could have been 3D printed instead with some of that sort of soft material. Something like this would have been nice, a sort of angled version of that with some straps on it. So you can use the straps to attach the camera onto the mount. Anyway, there's one on. There's space for the other, but I'm not going to put them both on because then you can't access the buttons here. You can't access the buttons here and here. So underneath it's got the tripod mount, which is handy. I think that is actually quite useful. Which suggests really they're not thinking so much about this as a flying camera. You know, there's other possibilities here. It would have been nice if it was printed out or something like this. It just would have absorbed the shock a little bit better. Okay, you've got this rubbery case, or silicone case, and it does help a little bit with grip, but there's not much vibration dampening. So I think, you know, this material just transmits the vibration. So for flying, although it seems like a nice idea, so you can mount it on the front of a frame or something like this, let's see, something like that, it seems like a good idea. You know, but it's hard, you know, it needs to be soft, it needs to. So with the mount, so in theory that's all you need to add to your 3-inch quad or your 5-inch quad. 55 grams. Okay, so that's not bad. Maybe add another Velcro strap in there just in case you want to have extra security. 56 grams. Okay, now compare that to the GoPro, which has disappeared. Oh, say a mount and a GoPro. That's 89 grams. 72 grams without the mount. That's the one I'd use. So 91 grams against 54 grams. It's a considerable weight saving. It could give your old 5-inch quads a new lease of life, where they sort of ran out of power, those 2204s and 2205s that nobody seems to fly anymore. You could go back to them with one of these, maybe. But I'd like to get a proper mount for it. And this does actually fit inside. Did a good job. It sits inside it nicely. But it would be nice to have some proper ones of these for this. And maybe even you could just get rid of this mount completely, which I think is, you know, it's nice to have, don't get me wrong. I just think a proper mount like this would have been nicer. This bit needs to go into the back of a telly, so you can use the OSD. So you have to plug the OSD into this other connection here. Have I got it the right way? No, other way. Try that. Yeah, it's in. Okay. So once you get it in, I think the firmware on mine was okay, so I haven't actually updated it. There's some other reviewers were saying they had to update theirs to get center weight or whatever to stay on after powering down. So I think I may have got a more recent sample. A few things I've done with it. I've done some crawling. I've put it on the top of the T-Rex 4 Land Rover, and that was pretty good. It was nice to have. Like, it would be no good if it was wet or if you're crawling in mud and stuff. I think you would wreck it. Although it says it's splash proof, it really would only be very small splashes, I think, before water would get inside it and start frying the components. The SD card goes in here and supposedly takes either an 8 or a 16, so I ran around looking for a 16 because most of them, my 16s have disappeared with cameras that I've lost on quads or things like that. But anyway, I tested it out at 32 just to see if that worked, and it works fine. So I'm not sure why they've limited the options to 8 and 16 inside the manual. It records in 1080p at 60 frames a second, 30 frames a second, 720p at 60 frames a second, 2.5K at 30 frames a second. I haven't used 2.5K, partly because the quadcopter I was going to use to test it, the receiver is fried on it, so I haven't got a really... I mean, I did do a test on this quad, which really is, it's one of those older quads, the 2205, 2600 kV motors with 5-inch props, just regular ones. I was actually just testing these out. I bought bags and bags of them from Hobby King, and they sat hanging on my wall. I didn't think I was ever going to use them, but anyway, I needed some half decent blades for this, and they did the job. They're a bit weak, but it's smoother than it has been. I think one of the motors is a wee bit dodgy. Anyway, I did do a test with this quadcopter, and it was reasonable. I think it was, like, you can judge for yourself when you see it. It's not GoPro session quality. It never really will be. But it's not meant to be at that price point. Okay, it's a cheap camera. You could probably buy 4 of these to 1 GoPro session. And I think it's useful just to have in your bag. If all else fails, at least you've got your Firefly, and you'll get some footage. It'll still fit inside this mount, as long as it's half decent, as long as it's one of those soft, flexible mounts. Just to be on the safe side, I put a cable tie round the outside. It wasn't going to shoot out anyway, but just in case. So that's it in, and the cable tie goes round the bottom, and it just keeps it in place. It's pretty decent. It's pretty decent, as Bill Siff might say. Friggin' decent. Anyway, that's that. I think I will use it. I really do think I'll use it. I had one of the older Fireflies, and this is good for going on wings of planes or tails, or you could sort of strap it on some way. I used a bit of Velcro on the bottom, and it's made some nice footage for me. So I really like that camera. It's decent camera, but it's old. It's quite heavy. It's a strange form factor. Most people are going for smaller and smaller, and this one it's about the same size as a Mobius, and I think maybe slightly better quality than a Mobius. So yeah, I really like the quality of this. This quality isn't quite as good, but it's not bad for the size. Not bad. It is a bit longer than the GoPro, but it's a lot shorter, and it's a lot lighter. You know, you can see there the height difference. That's plastic. That's not so good. I think it'll break pretty quickly, but your heart won't break. Whereas when you break one of these, unless you've got that insurance that Zorro takes out, yeah, you're not going to be bothered if you break this camera. I don't think. Do you like my hands? They're a bit dirty. Anyway. Okay, so I guess the next thing is to hook it up and have a look at the OSD. So, to access the menu, you have to press the center button on the control of the OSD pad. Oh, that starts it, sorry. Okay, press the top button. No, left button. Left button, okay. So now we're in video mode, so we have resolutions, and we can go through that, enter with the center button, and you can go around and pick the one that you want. I tend to leave mine at 1080p, 60 frames per second. Video quality, super fine, or just fine. So I have super fine on. Video clip time off, so you can set it for 3 minutes or something. I guess that has its uses. I'm not sure whether I'll ever use that. Okay. The other menu, general settings, beep on or off. Okay. Status LED on or off. Power off, 3 minutes. That's if you leave it unattended, it'll go off after 3 minutes, which I think is fine. You can set it for a bit longer or less time, or don't turn off at all. I leave it for 3 for the moment. Clock settings, I've set those, and that is still correct. Oh, except it's not. It's 2019. Okay, that's correct. Okay. Year, month, day doesn't really matter to me. I would really have it day, month, year, I suppose, living in the UK. The stamp, I turn this off straight away. Leaves your logo on, which I don't really want, or the date and logo. I like to leave them off. Down. Language, English or Chinese. OSD control, on or off. I think that means you can use the OSD to trigger the start stop. That's it. TV system, NTSC or PAL. I have it on NTSC, but there's PAL as well. Doesn't make any difference for this TV, I think. Flicker, 50 Hertz, because that's what I set it to. There's 60 Hertz. Image rotate, I turned that off. So I think that's when you turn it over, you say it's upside down on a plane or something. It's whatever you started at, that's the position it'll be. Whatever's upright at that time. I just leave that off because I tend to sort of be conscious of where the power buttons are. And I can always rotate it post in Adobe Premiere. Reset setup, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to reset what I've set. Format SD card, no. SD card info. Let's have a look at that. There's a bit of space on it, 21 mega space. Okay, that's useful. Firmware version MC2 190321A. I don't know whether that's the latest version. I understand there was some issues with an earlier version. I'll maybe check into that and see what the crack is. Okay, I think that's it. General settings, video mode. We've done all that, have we? Oh, we didn't do all of this. Sorry. Quick record. Off. I guess that means if you turn it on, it'll just start recording. So I don't want that. Well, maybe I do want that. Maybe that's the way I should have it. Sound record on. Mic volume 50% I have it set at. It still sounds awful whenever you're flying a quad. You know, what do you expect really for this money? Metering. This was the thing that was causing problems on earlier versions, I understand. So we'll just check to see whether that's working. I'll have multi, and it's set to multi. Exposure, that's, I think I've given it a little bit of plus. So let's just see what difference that makes. You can see it changing there. So I've given it a little boost because generally it's quite cloudy around here and you just want to get a little bit more blue, a bit more green, and at the moment that's what I need. Okay, white balance, Hawkeye, that's their GoPro color setting. So I like that. I'm leaving it at that. We can change it to, what else? Fluorescent 1. Okay. Cloudy. Actually, there's a cloudy version. It's a bit sort of yellowy. Daylight. Okay, that might be useful. Auto. Quite cold. So I'm going to go back to the Hawkeye setting. Oh, there's another page possibly. Incandescent. It's also quite cold. Back to Hawkeye. I prefer that. Okay. What else to say? I think that's it. I'll leave some footage. Bye for now.